Alright, so today we're going to be taking a look at the real reason I went to the Shizuoka Hobby Show, the Artist Alley. Let's check it out. So in part one, we took a look at the main show floor and we checked out all of the vendors and all of the new upcoming releases, and that was really awesome. If you guys want to check that out, you can click the link above. But today, like I said in the intro, this is the real reason I came to the Shizuoka Hobby Show, because they have so much more than just Gunpla. They have Pokemon, Studio Ghibli, figures, other sci-fi. There's just so much amazing artwork that was at this show, so why don't we just go ahead and get right into it. So right off the bat, there was this amazing 1/60 scale Shining Gundam that was painted up beautifully and also modified to move and play audio from the show. So I'm going to play a little clip of that right here. This was just so cool, and this is also a kit that I've got in my backlog and I'm going to be working on, so it was awesome to see not only somebody who had painted it up, but also like all this cool modification they had done to it. Okay, next up is everybody's favorite, the Nether Gundam or the Windmill Gundam. There was just this cute little display of all these little SD Nether Gundams, and I wanted to share that. Just a really fun little display. Okay, so this was one of my favorite displays of the entire show because there were a ton of scratch builds and also just amazingly executed old no grades. Starting off on the right, there's this 1/100 scale Kowloon Gundam. So there's no model kit of this. This is a full scratch build. There's also like a heavily modified Shining, and these 1/144 scale Rose, Maxter, the dragon is actually 1/100, but there's the bolt as well. And these are all super old vintage kits that are pretty challenging to build, and the modelers here have just done an insanely good job at making them look like fully presentable. They just look really fantastic. Beautiful paint jobs on all of them. I love that bolt especially. And moving up, you've got the God Gundam with Fuunsaiki, which is awesome, as well as Master Gundam with Fuunsaiki, and this one, which is so impressive. This is a custom, full scratch built God Gundam with really interesting proportions. It's a very unique take on the kit. I've seen some other similar takes in like old issues of Hobby Japan, but it was really awesome to be able to see it up in person. And then also they had this really cool 1/100 Rose, as well as the Butler Gundam from the show, which was just so fun to see. Okay, here we have another table of G Gundam featuring a full set of 1/100 scale either scratch build or heavily modified old kits, featuring the full set of all of the main suits from the show, and a really awesome Maxter diorama here in the boxing ring, which is just a really great concept and is also executed really well. But yeah, this Bolt Gundam and Dragon Gundam, of course, they don't exist in 1/100 scale, so they're built using parts from other kits, and just really, really cool to see somebody go ahead and do that. Okay, there's some fun ones here, including a Mermaid Gundam, which is kind of like a silly one, but it's really fun to see somebody kind of go through the trouble of putting that together. There's also an interesting Frieza there. Just a lot of fun stuff on this display here. And also some cel-shaded paintings. I know this is not G Gundam, but there's a wing there, and then another cel-shaded Devil Gundam. Really interesting take on painting to create this kind of cel-shaded effect. And they did it on all of these figures, as well as the mecha. It's kind of hard to capture it on video, but they really, really popped off the table when you saw them in person. Okay, next up we've got a couple of versions of the O, starting up with this one, which is heavily modified. It has a ton of surface detail on it. Just so many extra parts were added to this one, and yeah, I really quite like it. It's kind of, I guess, like I don't know, like a desert type or ground type, the O, and yeah, it just looks really cool here on the table. some other different dioramas as well. And this next one was very unique for sure. A really interesting take on this mobile suit. It almost felt to me like it was constructed out of razor blades or something, with all of those extra parts and really sharp edges. And yeah, not to mention the size. This was absolutely giant sitting on the table. Really unique take on this for sure. And then one last version of the O that's more of a straight build, but if you really look at it, it's actually modified quite a bit. It has some modifications to the armor, and there's a really beautiful Palace-Athene here as well, standing next to it. Both really awesome work. And one of my personal favorites, the Nightingale. This is a really awesome kit that I'm also working on myself, and it's nice to go around and see all of these modified versions with different things like LEDs added to them. This one looks like it has a bunch of additional parts from the Kshatriya perhaps. Really nice, big, bulky, modified version of the kit. There's also a few others that were more straight builds that were just really well executed. Nice subtle modifications here, but really sticking to the original designs of the suit or the kit. And yeah, really clean paint job on this one. And then last but not least, another one that also sticks a lot more closely to the original model and is just a really nice execution, really clean paint job, really skilled modeling, some subtle modifications. Okay, moving on to the Dendrobium, another one of my favorite designs. A really interesting smaller scale take on the mecha. And then this one was so fun. I think this was probably the largest model at the entire show. It was not super detailed, but it was a full scratch build, 1/100 scale Dendrobium with the master grade GPO3 there for scale, as well as a smaller scale Dendrobium just for contrast. But this was so fun. Everybody was taking pictures of this at the show. Okay, taking a break from Gundam for a minute, I wanted to share some of my favorite Pokemon models and dioramas. I was obsessed with this Gengar, really cool 3D effect with a nice flickering fluorescent light in the background. Just a really awesome take on the Bandai Gengar kit, really well executed. They also had these, which I believe were full scratch build Super Sentai Pikachus, I'm not sure. And then there were some more scratch builds here, including a Rotom phone and just some various other different Pokemon. And again, tons of Pokemon, a lot of them based on the Bandai model kits, some scratch builds thrown in here and there, and some Kirby's. Really cute. And then this was one of the sleeper hits of the show for me. I was not expecting to see like a full-blown Kirby Dreamland diorama, but I loved this. I don't know if it does it justice on video, but in person it really had an awesome presence, and it was really fun to kind of move your head around, and it just had a lot of depth to it. It was really, really fun and really kind of captured the spirit, I think, of the Kirby universe for me. So cute. Okay, these were definitely some of the most impressive builds and dioramas of the show. Lots of Studio Ghibli stuff, including a bunch of Nausicaa dioramas and stuff from other Ghibli franchises. Really impressive stuff. Crazy fire effect on this one. Another Nausicaa diorama. Really, really impressive stuff. And as you get to these larger scale ones, like again, another Nausicaa, just massive in scale, massive in detail. It's really hard to capture it on camera, but just so many individual pieces. And then this architecture, all created from scratch, mind you. Like, just the idea of going there, looking at, keyframes from the movie or key art and just recreating something like that is just... I can't really imagine how many hours it must have taken to put these together, but they are so cool. And on top of it all, the paint jobs were amazing, the textures were amazing, especially this one here. If you look at the depth of color, all these different layers of color on the walls, it's really just gorgeous water effect on top of it. Really top to bottom, amazingly executed. Moving on, we've got some Sandland here, and these looked really cool, and I was quite surprised to see them because this model kit only came out like 3 to 4 weeks before the show, I believe, and people were really, really quick to paint them up, and they look really great. Yeah, awesome kit. And another Sandland here next to what I believe is like a scratch build Dunbine, but I'm not 100%. And then just transitioning into more Dunbine, I really loved this table here, which had a lot of vintage Dunbine kits, including, I believe that one there that's in front of that picture frame. I think that's a modified vintage kit, but it was such a cool display to put it in front of that old school watercolor art. Really loved this whole table. Ton of awesome different Aura Battler Dunbine kits. And then moving on here, there were some SD Dunbines, and I'm not sure if these are model kits or scratch builds, but they were really cool regardless. And yeah, I just love seeing super deformed models. Oh, this was one of my favorite dioramas. Really, really awesome textures on this one. And then moving into military models, I tend to not look at military models that much because I'm not that knowledgeable, but these were giant, and that was cool just to see something that was so big. And then, of course, for the military dioramas, I find that the military modelers are like the best of the best when it comes to creating different types of terrain and different vignettes, 3D architecture, cutaways of architecture. Really awesome to look at them and try to see what I can pull out for my own dioramas or future builds. So I'm always looking for inspiration from the military modelers. Really awesome ground textures. And again, like the cutaways. Really, really great stuff. And a nice snow texture as well. Tons of variety. Great rust. Lots of ideas to pull from here. And then some motorized pieces as well. There were a lot of these at the show. I was surprised to see how many there were that were motorized. Okay, and there was also a small selection of Japanese style castle and temple dioramas, including this really impressive rotating one. I just thought this was such a cool display. Really cool. And this was actually one of the more interesting pieces. It was kind of this like 3D floating out of the wall, I don't know, surreal temple. Very, very cool design. Moving along to Votoms, starting off with a bang. I think this is a half scale, so like 1/2 scale Votoms based on the size of the girl figure there, but this was just a gigantic scratch build, probably made of cardboard, but just so cool that somebody put the effort in to build something like that. And then an awesome brutish dog diorama that kind of recreated the box art, and just a bunch of other Votoms figures. Another nice hanger diorama. Really love the backdrop on this one. Just a nice little slice 3D vignette. And another one. This one had a fantastic paint job on it. Some other mecha here. Some Gundam as well. And even more Votoms. As I said in my first video, there was just a ton of Votoms at this show on the show floor, and then also here in the Artist Alley. Lots of love for the Votom series. Okay, switching over to Macross, there was this nice little mini diorama here with a cool missile effect. Some other various mecha models on display as well. And some really awesome scratch builds here. These giant, those 2 giant ones on the top left were full scratch builds, and they were massive, very, very impressive. And there was a nice jet here with some cool artwork on top. Really pretty. But yeah, moving back to these scratch builds, they're not the most detailed, but I don't know if it captures it really on the camera. The cannons on them were so long. They must have been at least, I don't know, like over a foot, maybe like 16 inches long. They were just really imposing on the table there, with some nice other Macross builds below. And of course, Maschinen Krieger. I know everybody's always asking, like, show more Maschinen Krieger. There was a ton at the show. The modelers really loved it, and I think a lot of them were really had beautiful paint jobs on them, lots of interesting textures and color combinations, some nice little dioramas as well, and some 5-star stories. I'm a big fan of 5-star stories. There was quite a bit at the show, but less than I expected. I did really like this big one here, though. And some various figures. So I'm not familiar with all the franchises that these might be from, or if some of them might be totally original figures, but there were a lot of great ones. This was one of my favorite, and the screen on that little robot actually was illuminated, and it had a really nice effect in person. A really cool character design on this one as well, with just bright, vivid color. And some Dr. Slump there on that little dinosaur dragon. I'm not super familiar with Dr. Slump, but really beautiful paint job, really capturing that Akira Toriyama vibe. And some alien figures. I'm assuming most of these are resin figures, but really nice paint jobs on them. Nice little diorama there as well. And this was a really cool kind of demon figure. I talked to the person behind the table there, and they didn't make it themselves, but they said they believed it was a resin or 3D printed figure made by another modeler. Very, very intricate design. And then just some miscellaneous models here. I really liked this champion tiger, just kind of a fun, quirky design of this tiger on a tank with boxing gloves, but it was also just so vivid and a nice execution. Some other creative displays here from various different franchises. This is a fun take on, I believe, this dinosaur figure to make it look kind of mechanized. Some other dinosaurs on the table. And then these two mechs, I'm not sure if they're from a franchise, but I really like the design of them. Really unique looking. I love the like really slender limbs on different mechs. And an SD Godzilla. I believe this is from Godzilla -1. Really nice tones. And then just some various other figures here, a lot of which I'm not familiar with, so I apologize. I love this little guy. And some Pat Labor dioramas. These were really cool, especially this one with the flashing lights. So much stuff to see here. And yeah, I love that dinosaur. It kind of reminds me of like a Toriyama drawing. Nice water effect here with some serpents coming out. And some Star Trek and Star Wars, both of which had just amazing levels of surface detail. Some Ultraman and One Piece, just so many different franchises. Again, more movement and motorized pieces. Cool Piccolo, Kit Bash. Tons of variety. Oh, I really liked this one. Kind of similar to that G Gundam sitting in the boxing ring. And some SD airplanes here. Those are cute. This was one that really impressed me. Very, very cool Exodia from Yu-Gi-Oh! Some more Gundam. And a nice space battleship Yamato diorama. Not sure what these are from, if they're from anything at all, or if they're originals, but they had really great texture, some of the best I've seen at the show. It's interesting, like crab, half skeleton kind of creatures, as well as some ships, and a Gundam diorama. I'm not familiar with this ship. It might be an original design, or if it's not, definitely leave a comment and let me know. But it had a ton of surface detail on the back part. Some animated Zoids, and another mechanical Zoc. It was very cute, and it made some funny noises as well when it would move around. Really nice version of the Plamax kit that I've been thinking about picking up. Some more Gundam and Votoms dioramas. And I don't know what these guys are called. If anybody knows the name of the franchise, definitely leave a comment, but there's definitely someone at the show that was a big fan, and this one even kind of blew smoke there. And some Dugram. And these were just, I guess, like space, Apollo mission. Not sure if these are kits or what they are, but they were fascinating to look at. And I also love this little guy served on a plate with some food. Really cute. And some Dirty Pair figures as well as the ship. I actually have this model kit. I picked it up at Otakon last year and I've been waiting to paint it up. So I was recording some footage here mostly for my own inspiration to kind of see what could be done with that kit. And there was also, there were some vendors here. This is the Artpla Booth, which as far as I know, basically what they try to do is create the vibe of resin kits with like fixed pose models, but using plastic. So it's a lot more accessible and also less toxic, safer for kids to work with. And they did look really nice. Some Dugram here. This one in the top left is really, really nice. Nice little vignette. And some SD Gundam. SD Gundam I feel like doesn't get a lot of love in the West, but I was so happy to see it here. And yeah, so many modelers really pushed their SD kits to make them look, yeah, like show ready. They just look really great. Some nice little Zaku gunners here. And then this section is kind of a catch-all. There's a lot of miscellaneous Gundam that I didn't break up into specific categories like the G Gundam or like Nightingale sections earlier in the video, but there was just so much amazing stuff. Like here's a really cool vintage 160 scale Gelgoog and some other 160 scale Zakus. Nice little diorama with a miniature 7-Eleven. This was really impressive. And another diorama with a ground Gundam. Nice water effect. Some various model kits here, including some Gundam Artifact series, which always impress me because they're just so small and difficult to paint. This was cool. I don't know the name of that blue guy or if he's original, but that was kind of fun, the RX-78 fighting him. And then this one here, all in grayscale. Some more dioramas. And a Hygog, which I love, as well as a Hilderfer. I don't know how to pronounce the name of that one, the tank one. Sazabi Verka. Lots of Zakus. Oh, this was one of the most impressive dioramas at the show by far. Just a unique approach. I had never seen kind of a curved backdrop like that, but on top of it all, this really gorgeous illuminated beam saber. It just really captures like a moment in time where this is happening. One of my faves. Some nice busts. There's a Zeta here. And then moving on, I believe there's some more. Yeah, there's the Sentinel and then an RX-78. Not sure if these are third-party kits. I think they are, but they were quite large and really well executed, like great clean paint jobs on them. Really like the color palette on that RX-78. Lots of detail on that Sentinel. And Zeku Irons, that's just a kit I would really love to build myself at one point. Some various other mecha, Zabungle, and an Akai. Nice kind of cel-shaded look on those. And some more Star Trek. USS Enterprise. An old school Zaku fighting a Dom. This one is cool because it's not quite cel shaded, but it does still capture kind of the softer tones of the old school anime. And another Dom. And a core fighter. And there was one person here who must have really, really loved GMs because there were a ton on this table. And they were all painted up, which is crazy. Think how long that must have taken. Another nice little diorama here. I like how they did that base. Very cool. I forget the name of this ship, but this is cool. I think this must have been a scratch build. More various Gundams here. Of all different shapes and sizes. Oh, these really stood out. Everybody was taking photos of these. So there was an Ariel and an RX-78 that were sculpted completely out of bent runners, as well as for the Ariel, they actually did Witch from Mercury and Kanji at the front. You'll see all made out of bent runners. Super impressive. Oh, I love these. I know this Instagram modeler's name is Sandstone, and they do some really gorgeous rust effects and textured effects, and they had a bunch of displays at this show. I believe they did that Nausicaa little wing ship. I forget what it's called, but the little aircraft as well. Unicorn Gundam here, which is very, very large and was cool to see. Some more figures. I think those, that Zaku leg and RX-78 are papercraft. And then these are some more builds from the builder who did that O that I showed earlier in the video. And you can see they all share the kind of same aesthetic. Just lots of parts on parts on parts, lots of different layers and LEDs. And they were all also just gigantic, gigantic builds. And some of the old school Gundam dioramas that you could actually buy in kits. I did a review of one of these on my Vintage Gunpla channel, but basically they were just model kits that Bandai made where they would give you all the components to make your own diorama. And it was nice to see some fully executed versions of those kits, because they're not worked on quite too often. And I believe this is a Saikomu Zaku. I forget the name of this one, but I'm always kind of interested in it because it has such strange legs. Nice little cutaway of a house in this diorama. I always love kind of just like zooming in and peeking inside of the house and seeing all the little details. This was a really nice Gira Doga diorama. And I loved that it was on a rotating base, so you could really, you know, get this nice full 360 sense of it. And then, of course, they kind of prank you by putting two little cats on the back, but I really like just being able to look at the whole model like that. I wish more displays had that kind of rotating base. Really cool vignette. And I forget the name of this suit, but I really like the design. And there's some cute SDs in front of it as well. Love these little guys. And some more motion. Like I said, there were lots of just like mechanical designs at this show. And, oh, this is one of my favorite water effects of the show. They really did a good job creating those wave effects. Really feels like the water's moving. And this one as well, really nice wave effects with a clearer base of water below it. And a Kshatriya. Some more dioramas up here. And then that O from earlier. And this is one of my favorites as well, just because I'm working on the kit, so it was nice to see it painted. It's a 160 scale vintage high-grade EX Victory 2. And yeah, pretty straight paint job, but nice and clean. Alright, that's pretty much going to do it for this video. Guys, I would love to hear your thoughts on which builds you thought were the most impressive. I love chatting with you guys and hearing all your opinions about what you like. And yeah, if you guys enjoyed this video, if you could give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button, I would greatly appreciate it. And I've also launched channel memberships, so if you guys are interested in further supporting the channel, please consider becoming a member. I am posting monthly members exclusive videos to that section, and there are already 2 exclusive videos that are currently live, so if you want to check that out, please do. And as always, thank you guys so much for watching. Appreciate you all, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye!